Oh boy, this is going to be a ride. So this is the first part of 2 of my palette ranking. I have it written down here and oh boy, we have to rank, or I did rank for you, 142 eyeshadow palettes. But I do have a bunch of palettes sitting in front of me that I am not ranking. And this is what I'm going to start with, just explaining why these are not included in the ranking before you ask and you maybe be like, oh, why? Well, what's wrong with them? Nothing. We'll come to that. So the first palettes that I'm not going to rank are the 2 Glamlight Friday Nightmare on Elm Street thing. Because I just got them in the beginning or like mid-December-ish. I just did not came along to use them. That's why they're not included. Same goes for the Gourmand Girls Silent Night and the Glaminatrix Fairy Lights. These were gifted to me and I will not include them because I actually got them the day that you see me filming this. Or like the day before that, but I just unboxed them today. I will also not include this Odin's Eye 12 pen palette because these are all the multi-chromes. This is just a complete collection and there is nothing I can really rank about them because in my ranking I considered color story, quality and my personal excitement as like KPIs to kind of quantify something about a palette. With these, to be honest, the color story is very hard to rate. My personal excitement of these is actually a 10 out of 10 because I saw the bad reviews about them, but let me tell you, I did not experience any of these bad things. All of them do work nice. I have no like oil like on the top that a lot of people had, and I saw those photos and were like, what the fuck's going on with these? Oh, there's something big outside my window. Is it a spider? I am very happy with these beautiful colors, beautiful things, and to be honest, this shade here, Angela, is a perfect dupe for the shade Gorgeous in the Odin's Eye Christmas Eve palette. Just saying. Love it, beautiful, but not ranked. This does also apply to my self-made Lethal Cosmetics palettes, all of these. I will show you them in a minute, but same here. The color story, I just cannot rate or rank or whatever because I did them by myself. Of course, this is a 10 out of 10. I just want to mention that in general, Lethal Cosmetics has wonderful shades and I'm definitely planning to do a like palette bingo style video somewhat next year since you know I'm on my no-buy, so I want to create new content with what I already have. So the first palette from Lethal Cosmetics is what I have here. This is a 4-pan palette that I created and this was actually the first one that I have. And I put in here Aphelion, Antimatter, Singularity and Genesis. Beautiful shades. Would I do this again? Absolutely not, because I probably would have started like with the big palettes. The second that I actually made was this 6-pan palette, and this has 3 more of those shifty transparent base thingies and 3 more colorful shimmers. And then everything kind of escalated very quickly and here we are sitting with 5 12-pan palettes. I'm not reading you all the shade names, I'm just showing you what's inside. First of all, we have this one, and this is a beautiful like one side matte, one side shimmer palette that I created. I think some of these shades came out in the summertime. That's why, in general, that's the time when I usually buy new Lethal Cosmetics, when they do have new collections. Then I fill myself in a 12-pan palette, either with the new ones that they released or add in some of the older ones that I don't have yet. Then we have this little palette. This is a more darker thing and I went for a, yeah, kind of a like monochromatic Perot vibe that clearly did not happen here, but you see this row, very, very popular color combo these days, the blues with the golds. Green, purple, everything just works wonderful in this palette. Then we have this little palette and this is completely filled with new shades that came out in the fall, something like that, when they released their metal collection. So these are 6 of the new multi-chromes and these are the 6 pure metal shades. I know they have 2 more. I might get them after my no-buy. Then we have this palette here, also a very darkish one. You kind of see what vibe I'm very, very leaning towards. This is a very fallish, earthy palette. And then we have the last one, and this contains only duo / multi-chromes from the brand. Beautiful. But as I said, they're pretty hard to rank, and I don't want to rank them because it's not fair towards the other palettes. I'm also not including my two Lemonhead LA space cases. This is the space case mini, this is the pro case. I'm not including these because these are pure glitter palettes. Same as my Slayfire Cosmetics ones. Oh, there's a bit of powder on top. This is the Diamond Skin palette. Oh, so pretty. Look at these. And from their Halloween release, I got the limited edition To Die For palette. This is so beautiful. And do you know, whenever I see these palettes, I'm like, oh my god, the No-Buy is such a good choice, because before the No-Buy, I was constantly trying out new stuff and getting new stuff. And when you try out new palettes, I'm just not, I don't know, I just can't include the glitters because it's like not part of the new palette that I'm testing. But now with the No-Buy content that I try to do, or like that I want to create, not try, I will create it, I can include those glitters. Can't wait to do that. I will also not include this Glam Shop PL 12 pan thing. Same reason as with the cosmetics. I just did this by myself. So of course, the chosen color story is a 10 out of 10. Quality wise, I love Glam Shop PL, but let me just tell you that these are your typical indie flakes. So if you don't like this formulation, you might do not like Glam Shop. I personally like this now. It took kind of a learning curve to get along with these, but once you get that, pretty beautiful. Other than that, I won't include my ColourPop order and my Yes Style order. I placed a ColourPop order during the Black Friday sale that actually just arrived before I started filming, so I haven't even unboxed it yet. But I will do a video with the palettes that is in this box in January. I'm planning to do like a week of ColourPop, maybe something like that. If you're interested in that, like 5 different videos. Or I can do like one video with 5 different ColourPop palettes. Let me know down below. And the things from Yes Style, I got some more, not Flower, Flower Nose is the brand. It's not Florasis, that's the other Chinese brand. Flower Nose, I got some more palettes, but this just has not arrived yet. So if you are confused in a couple weeks maybe, and you see me using on my Instagram palettes that I did not include in this ranking, that is the reason why. And now rambled enough, let's go into the ranking. Let's start with my least favorite palette in this collection. And I promise you that once I'm done filming, this palette is going to be decluttered. I actually just kept it for this video because this is such a bad palette. This is the Raban Unnatural Word Quad, and I'm not referring to Raban in general, it is specifically this quad. The best thing about this quad is this lilac gloss. This is actually a really interesting one. The other shades are the true bullshit. This purple, you maybe see what a dent I have in here. That dent does not come from me using this over and over and over and over again. That dent does come from me digging with my finger in it to get some pigment. The two browns do not work together because they have such a different undertone on the eye. It's just such a bad quad. As I said, the gloss, amazing. I wish this was a single because I would totally use this. But the quad itself with 142 in my collection is the worst thing I tried. Next up at 141, we actually have, and this breaks my heart, the MAC's Nobody's Business palette. I did a review not here on Instagram, I think, not here on YouTube, I think I did it only on Instagram. The color story is so tempting and so beautiful, and this could have been such a hit palette, but it is just very, very bad. MAC needs to really step up their eyeshadow game. They used to be the fucking banger 10 years ago, but in 2023 or even in 2022 or 21, eyeshadow companies moved on from this mediocre formulation. And please don't comment now, and I got these comments on TikTok, yeah, and this is for professional use, this is not for your indie lovers. It does not matter, because Viseart is for professional use too, and I the fuck love Viseart. The eyeshadow quality is so far ahead of MAC, they can't even see each other. This could have been a hit. This is unfortunately not because of the formulation, but I love the color story. I love this packaging. And that's the only reason why I still hang on to this. I probably forgot to count in between, so I mean I put the numbers over here so you know where we at, because the next one is please don't unsubscribe, the Natasha Denona Yaka palette. I hate this color story so fucking much. The quality is there. I mean, it's Natasha Denona. It's very pretty. And you know, the thing is, just from looking at this palette, I want to use it again. Just from looking at this, it makes me super happy. But I just know whatever I do, the looks will look super weird. I don't like how they turn on me. I just did not declutter this because I want to get some more use out of it. I want to see if next year I can maybe fall in love with this. I don't want to give up on this yet. But for now, compared with all the other beautiful palettes, this I cannot rank this higher as 140. Next up we have another holiday palette, and this is the Dior Backstage Silver Essentials. When I saw the first pictures of this, I was like, oh, this is so for me. It is not really. This translates super weird on the eye. This is nowhere near the quality that I know from the Backstage palettes. We have another one in the ranking that is way, way higher than this. And just in general, this is a very weird color story. I maybe have to dig in some more because I created maybe 1 or 2 looks only with this, but I was so turned off by the look that I did that I just could not motivate myself to dig back into it, but I certainly will in the next month because this is a nice winter palette. I like the idea of this palette for winter, but I don't know, it was not my thing, and I like it more than Yaka and MAC. But compared to everything else, not so much. Next up we have a Nomad Cosmetics palette. This is the Santa's Village one, and this was a limited edition palette for the holiday season of 2022. I immediately bought this when I saw the color story, and this was actually the first palette that I got from Nomad Cosmetics. And if this would have been the only one that I put in the order back then, I would never ever have looked back into Nomad Cosmetics because the quality, this is hurting my feelings. I'm not talking about the mattes. I love the red, the green, the gray, the white. This is everything you need for a Christmas look. This is the problem. And you even see how many dents I have in here because same as with the Raban quad that I just talked about, I had to dig my finger in. And I hate applying makeup with my fingers. That's it. The only way I can make this work is by using a mixing medium like the Inglot one. Otherwise, these shimmers will not translate to the eye. These are not even toppers, they're just not there. At 137, we have our first entry of Pat McGrath. And if you follow me for longer, if you follow my journey on Instagram, on TikTok, or here on YouTube, you know what Pat McGrath palette made it so far down the list. Motherfucking ship 11. This palette is a pure insult to everybody who loves makeup, and I'm sorry, I don't want to say that other people are lying, but I get a really weird vibe when somebody tells here on YouTube that this is a good palette. It is not. The best thing about this palette, and therefore I think we can agree all on that, are the 3 mattes, because she really stepped up the matte game and I absolutely enjoy these. I also do enjoy the vibe of this palette. I mentioned this even in my Christmas overview palettes, what are good Christmas palettes, and I still stand by this. But compared to everything else, and even compared to, in general, Pat McGrath only motherships, this is the worst she ever released. And the problem is mainly this part of the palette. These 4 special shades, and I'm sorry, I'm paying €125. I mean, I didn't because discount codes, but you maybe pay $125 or euro or whatever, and then you get just shit quality in eyeshadow. 2 weeks ago, last week, I don't know, last week I think, did a Pat McGrath brand review where I just revisited this. This Blitz Crimson Ecstasy shade. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This threatened my life. I'm telling you. I applied this on my eye and flakes. Like they literally, you just imagine this is the flake sticking to my eye. Boop. Bare skin. And this is also with the gold, with this one not so much. This is the Astral Amethyst Allure. No, this goes on better, but everything else here, I'm sorry. The metallics are mediocre metallics, what should I tell you? But no, for Pat McGrath, like standards or references, no. I really hope Mothership 12 will be better, because I'm dumb, I will probably buy it. I have to admit that I did not expect to like this palette as much as I do, and this might surprise you now that this ranked as low, but when I bought this palette that I'm going to talk about, that I ranked at number 136, I was sure this is going to be my least liked or even decluttered after a couple of uses. The Blend Bunny Forget Me Not palette. This is technically, this is technically a face and eye palette. Therefore, I was not sure if this is really for me. The quality of the mattes in here is outstandingly good. This is therefore very different though from her regular eyeshadow palettes, because this is also a face palette. You cannot do eyeshadow and face powders the same formulation. They are a bit different, but they perform outstandingly good on the eyes. I don't like the Shimmer row. This is really weird. They do not pick up, they do not look good on the eyes. When you use them as highlight though, they work. I like this more, or like better, no, different. I like this enough to not declutter this. I like this enough to even pull it in to like for companion purposes. But I don't think this serves a real purpose in my collection. So I keep it still, but I cannot promise if this might not end up being decluttered next year. And that's the same reasons that I have for the next palette to rank it at 135. This is the Denessa Myricks Groundwork palette. I used this for the very first time in my Denessa Myricks brand review, and I came back to this actually a couple times since then. Same with the Blend Bunny. It is a nice companion palette. I think the shadows perform outstandingly good. And I ranked this actually higher than Blend Bunny because here are creams. And the creams are the shit. I love them. It is a very versatile palette. This sandstone combo here is a beautiful like priming layer for my eyelids. The cream is a beautiful eye primer, and I set it with the powder. The chisel? No, stone it is. The stone shade I can use for my brows. It looks really, really good. It is a good palette. Don't get me wrong, but it's just nothing that I gravitate to in my collection. I'm not a neutral girl, you might tell. So the next three palettes that I'm going to mention are kind of in the same spot, so I tried to rank them with the color story. At number 134, we have the Raban Duo, and this is the shade I'll put a ring on it. It is nice, it is pretty. I like the formulation actually a lot, but it's just a duo. Therefore, my excitement for these is not that high. I ranked this lower than the other two just because I think the combo of these two shimmers is a bit weird, because this is a very cool toned like gunmetal shade, while this is the like NARS Orgasm on crack, the blush but on crack. Let alone are these shades beautiful, but you cannot combine them, so I don't see why they were put in the same palette. Number 133 is the Date Night Duo from Raban, and this makes so much sense. This is a nice neutral dark brown and a beautiful champagne-y white gold shade. Beautiful colors, way too neutral for me. That's why my excitement level is not that high. That's why it's ranked so low. Number 132 though is the Iconique Quad, and I know it sounds a bit weird because what I just criticized with the put a ring on it, not quad, it's a duo, with the put the ring on it duo, I like in here. I love that you have a true silver and a true gold. This makes to me much more sense combining than a gunmetal shade and a like pink gold shifty shade. Quality wise, all three are beautiful, but out of those, I like this the most. I do have a fourth duo, but that's ranked much higher. Let's move on with number 131, and this is the LH Cosmetics Shimmer Saga quad. It is a nice quad, but it's a quad made out of topper shades. It is nothing that I actually really gravitate to, and to be honest, when I'm completely honest, I used this only once. So this actually is a potential declutter palette, but I just kept it because I want to dig more into them and understand why these are priced at 40 bucks per quad. Number 130 is the Tom Ford Electric Cherry quad. And the reason is mainly not because this is bad quality or I'm not excited enough, because it's a red palette. I am fucking excited. But it's all satin shimmers, and to be honest, when I am gravitating towards a red shimmer, it better punches me in the face until I lose my fucking mind. But this doesn't, this is more of a soft vibe, and if you're afraid of reds and you want to dig into reds, this is a beautiful way to start. I think these collection, or like the whole collection of palettes, is still available, and this is definitely the better Tom Ford quality. At place 129, we have, unfortunately, a Gloss Gods palette. You know, I love Gloss Gods. I am affiliated with them. If you want to buy them, you can save some money with my code EllaKingsley. You find it also in the discount box, in the info box. But the thing is, I don't have anything bad to say about the quality of the What's Your Power palette. To me, it is just the color story. I am not a big pastel fan. That is the only thing that I just have to say. I love the colors. This palette was actually the moment when I decided, okay, let's try Gloss Gods, because I saw Angelica Nyquist talk about this palette in a new makeup release video. And for whatever reason, in the summer when this came out, I was really attracted to pastels, but I very, very quickly learned I don't like pastels that much. Quality, amazeballs, and for pastels, even better. Next up is one of the Beauty Bay palettes, and you might be shocked that a lot of my Beauty Bay palettes are ranked quite low in the whole overview, but the reason is not that these are bad in quality. The reason is just that they have to compete with so many other palettes, let alone Beauty Bay. Buy them, 10 out of 10. Compared with everything else, I just have things that I like more than the Beauty Bay palettes. The least favorite out of them all that I have is the Bright Matte, because this is just a matte rainbow palette. Why didn't I declutter this when I don't like this? Well, the reason is quite simple. This is a companion palette. This has every color that you might want to have to amp up a look. You want to blend out a certain blue eyeshadow, but that palette that you use doesn't have that. Okay, the Bright 2 has got you. You need a pink eyeshadow. Bright 2.0 got you. The 42 pan, of course, has some redundant shades. You can get these in a 16 and a 9 pan version too. I had the 9 pan also. That was a gift with purchase from Beauty Bay. That was really awful. But this, I like the quality, don't get me wrong, but it's just not a palette that I grab. Next up we have the Vieve 90s palette, and this is actually the only eyeshadow I ever tried from Vieve. And I love this color story. It really, really hurts me that I have to rank this so low in the whole ranking, because I want to love this. And there are specific 4 shades in here, I'm talking about this quad here, that gives me a throwback feeling, because there was a quad from Catrice, the German drugstore brand, and it was with Caviar Gauche, I think is a designer, and they had a quad that has some like fur on top, and it had these 4 shades in them. I loved this quad so much that I hit pan on every single shade in this quad. And this just gave me a lot of this throwback feeling, but all in all, when I'm 100% honest, a lot of these shades look too similar on the eye and they turn into one dirty wash of color. This palette is nice. I like that I have it. I'm pretty sure that next year we will get much more cool tone color stories than this, and this might be then the time I declutter this. I though do have to mention that Vieve is really good when it comes to like what you get for your money, because this retails for I think under 50, maybe 40, but you get 3 grams per pan. Like, this is massive. At 126, another Beauty Bay palette and another bright. Oh, I just realized that I had a mistake in the bright one when I said I ranked the bright matte, not the bright 2.0, because this is the bright 2.0. And this I like much more than the bright matte because, first of all, I feel like this has much more depth to it and you have some beautiful shimmers to them. I have created looks with this palette. I also put this in as companion palette, but in general, because of the shimmers, because of the fact that I could use this alone, I like this more than the bright matte. Quality, again, is amazing. Beauty Bay has amazing quality. Another Beauty Bay palette at 125, and this is the neutral palette. The reason why this ranks so low is quite simple. It is just a neutral palette. I'm not a neutral makeup lover. I don't wear neutrals that often. When I wear them, I like these kind of versions. They do have a nude version too that I already decluttered because I didn't like it at all. But this is a beautiful, I love these two rows with shimmers, besides this one, for whatever reason, this is a matte, but beautiful quality, beautiful formulation. I'm just not gravitating towards neutral palettes that much. At 124, we have another Blend Bunny palette, and this is the Surch palette. This was one of the first that I personally ever tried from Blend Bunny, and I have thoughts about Blend Bunny in general. I'm not a fan at all of the color coordinated columns, but it makes sense in those palettes. Let me just clarify that. The reason why this is ranked so low is quite easy. These shimmers, very, very weak. I don't like them at all. And these neons, I don't know, people have such high opinions on these neons, and I'm just sitting here like, why? They just they don't work on me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. They look chalky, they look patchy, they look really, really bad. Even when I just use them as a pop of color in the inner corner, whatever, it does not work. Does look really weird. These three rows though, absolutely stunning, but that does not justify ranking this higher as it is. At 123, we have another Mothership palette. This is Mothership 4, oh, wrong way, Decadence. This is surprisingly better than I thought. When I saw this for the very first time, did not want to have this. I was lucky enough that my beautiful friend Diana sent me this. We just traded and exchanged some palettes or like products in general, and she was so kind and sent me hers because she didn't like this at all. I was very underwhelmed by this, even seeing this in real life. When I used this, I did a beautiful look with this. I really love the way these metallics feel. They are different than the metallics in the other Motherships. I don't know if I'm crazy, but I feel like there's a tiny difference in formulation. But since this is also just a companion palette, I cannot use this on its own. I need to pull in something else. I cannot rank this higher. Don't shoot me, okay? Please do not unfollow, do not unsub, do not leave hate comments. But Adept Cosmetics Minka only made it to 122. And the reason is not my excitement. I just look at this and I am instantly excited and I immediately want to put this everywhere on my face. I also do not have a problem with the color story. I do think these two purples are not really fitting the vibe, but I can work with it. It is definitely more of a companion palette, but my biggest problem is actually the formulation. The quality of these shadows is not what I like. I said that Glam Shop PL has flakes. This is worse. These are the not good flakes. This is not good indie flake. I know that a lot of people love these, and it's probably also a bit with my technique a problem, because I do not apply these with fingers. They swatch beautiful, but I will never ever apply eyeshadow to my eyes with my fingers. I just do not like this. If you are somebody who does this, maybe you like this more. I can only compare it to my own techniques, what I feel comfortable with, and definitely not applying makeup with fingers. That's not my vibe. So it hurts me a bit that I have to rank it that low. Number 121, again, a Beauty Bay palette. This is the Earthy palette. And when you just forget for a moment that we had those very bright palettes and the neutral one, this is This is the first Beauty Bay palette out of them all that really catched my eye because of this beautiful fall green vibe. But on the other side, I do criticize that about Natasha Denona Yaka because I don't like the way certain green shades do look on me. I still think that the earthy palette in this format has a beautiful variety of greens. You can go very earthy and mossy, you know, with this area. Maybe pull in some of these or these goldens here. But you can also do very bright greens, like when you stay up here, maybe a little bit with this one over there, and then some of this beautiful like silverish gold. I know it's a weird description, but that's what I see. I am just not drawn to monochromatic green palettes. That's why this is ranked so low compared to, for example, the monochromatic blues and purples and reds that Beauty Bay also has. And at 120, we have Unearthly Cosmetics. This is the Hauntingly Glamorous palette, and this was the first palette that I ever tried from Unearthly Cosmetics. You can probably guess why. This is such an underrated, amazing palette, but I just cannot rank this higher as it is now. The problem I see mainly here is that I feel very limited in this palette. When you are somebody who mostly wears matte eyeshadows and is not really into intense metallics, I think you have much more fun with this. But I like my intense metallics. I like my foiled golds on my lid or foiled blues, does not matter. These two here are duo multi-chromish, but toppers. They do have a transparent base, so of course they look stunning. I remember the first look that I created was mainly with the blues and the purples, and then I applied this lilac all over the lid and put this on top of it. Amazing. Such a beautiful look. I just do not feel gravitated towards it, you know? I always would have to put in or like pull in something else. Quality-wise, I have nothing bad to say. So at 119, we have Natasha Denona Bronze palette. And the reason for this beautiful golden palette being so low in my ranking is exactly this. Everything you do with this palette is bronze. It is a monochromatic bronze golden palette, so do not expect wonders from this. I like this palette, but I don't like it as much as the rest of Natasha Denona or in general of my collection. Number 118 is a fairly new palette to my collection. I was sent this by my beautiful friend Danielle from the Instagram channel Fedaro Beauty. She had never used this before and thought maybe I like this more. She was right. I mean, this is a beautiful palette. I love this very earthy, mossy color story with this pop of yellow and green in here. I think the quality is good, but it's nothing outstanding. That's why it's ranked in the lower half. It's just not special, but I like it. Would I have bought this palette myself? Absolutely not. But I'm happy that I haven't, don't get me wrong. Again, please do not throw stones at my face. Number 117 is the Adept Cosmetics Samarian Sunset palette. While this palette, when you look at it, has one of the most delicious multi-chromes. I try to capture the shift a bit. I don't know if you can tell. I hope you can. Kind of everything that you put together with this palette will look the same. I don't know how this is possible in a palette like this, but I am kind of disappointed, to be honest. This is, out of the 15 pans that Adept Cosmetics has done so far, the weakest of them all. I'm a bit disappointed in this. I like it still more than the rest that I already showed you, but I cannot rank this higher than this. Fun fact, just today as I'm filming this, I asked in the Instagram stories, what do you think will be my most favorite palette of 2023? And there was one comment, like one answer of the question sticker, Glaminatrix Sugar and Spice. I appreciate that you probably love this palette more than I do, but I cannot rank this higher as 116 because this palette is such a pain. Not the quality. The quality is there. It's good. I don't get the color story. I do not feel inspired. I don't want to reach for it. I forced myself to use it again before the ranking to clear up my mind, but it just hasn't changed. I like the looks that I came up with this palette, but you know, my excitement level is fairly low on this. Now we are at 115 with another Pat McGrath palette. And this is, I mean, if you don't know what this is a Mothership, yeah, Mothership 8 Divine Rose 2. This used to be my favorite Mothership palette. Or like nearly my favorite Mothership palette. This used to be a love of my life. But for whatever reason, when I just quite recently used this again, I think I fell out of love with this. It is still a nice palette. I still see myself wearing this, but the love has changed. We both went on separate journeys, I guess. My first experience with Glaminatrix cosmetics I did with the palette that I ranked at 114. This is the Into the Night palette. As far as I know, this was limited edition. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I see everywhere. And this is a beautiful palette. I actually really fell in love with the formulation of these. I think the quality is very, very good, and this color story makes much more sense than the Sugar and Spice one. I like the vibe, I really enjoy it. It's a solid ranking here. At number 113 comes an Odin's Eye palette. This is the Norns palette. This is the reformulated version of the Norns. So if you have the original one, it has the round pans, but this is now the new one with the new formula and square pans, or like whatever that Odin's Eye shape is. Do you know what my problem is here? Why this is ranked so low? Well, I tell you, that's why you watch this video. I don't think that this color story makes any sense. I don't get it. I don't get it. These blues don't make sense, the red doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense is the purple, yes, the green, kinda. What on earth is this fiery orange glitter doing in here? What is the red doing in here? Everything is just so weird put together in this palette that I just were not able to create cohesive looks with this. But I like the formulation, I like the quality, that is pretty nice, and I still get excited looking at it, but I just cannot come up with looks. The second LH Cosmetics quad that I own, the basic Ellamas, actually made it to 112 because I think this quad is much better than Shimmer Saga. This is named after like different metals, so you have silver, copper, gold, and lithium, I think. But the gag is here that this is called LH, you know, LH, Linda Hallberg, whatever. The quality is good. I like this. I like this like as a companion quad if you want to have some like basic shimmers with you. Is it worth the price of 45 money? Absolute the fuck not. Why is this price so high? Number 111, we have another Blend Bunny Cosmetics, and this is the All Done Up palette. Same with the Surch palette in my opinion. The shimmers are weak. I really don't think that she was able to deliver a good shimmer formula as she is now. They have developed a lot, but these three rows of mattes are very, very good. This is a nice neutral palette, still with some kind of twisty twist to it. For example, with the sheen or the shine shade, this is a duochrome, very, very pretty and shifty. This, like with the two golds, I don't know why. I think this is a bit redundant, even though I see why they're in there. They have different undertones. Personally, I didn't need them. So 111, elf is the German word for 11. 111 in my ranking, I think is a good place to be. At 110, we have another Gloss Gods entry, and this is the Girl on the Moon palette, and this is the first version. They just very recently came out with, I think, a revamped formula, or they brought it back because it was out of stock. I actually don't know, but this is a very, very beautiful, shimmery blue-green companion palette. My point why this is ranked so low, even though I love this, are the shades Eclipse, Full Moon, and Celestial. I don't know if you can tell, I hope you can, but they're not filled all the way up. This sounds so petty, I know. But when you just look at this palette, it just has a very weird vibe to it going on. I feel like this palette was not done ready, or like was not ready to release, if you know what I mean. And I don't want to sound so harsh because the quality in here, oh my god, amazing. Amazing. Maybe in general, so you know, Gloss Gods has the flakes, the indie flakes too, but a better version of the indie flakes. At number 109, we have the What's Up Beauty Yotes palette, and this has a beautiful formulation, and the reason why this is ranked at 109 is quite simple. It's too thin for my liking. The mattes are too thin, the shimmers are too thin. It's not my vibe. I see what they were going for because it's a stone-inspired palette. It's not my vibe. That's it. Oh, another Adept Cosmetics palette. People must think now, wow, she really hates Adept Cosmetics. I don't, I promise. But the inspired palette is... I have the same thing with the inspired palette as I have with the Blend Bunny palettes. There is this one row that makes me not happy, and in the Adept one, it's the matte row. The formula of the mattes is amazing, but I get it why this is green. I understand this. But I wish there was something else, just one different shade. Maybe instead of this bright green shade, a brown or a black. That would have been amazing. Next up we have another Beauty Bay palette, and this was a limited edition release. I don't know if they still have it, but they came out with the Retro Love palette for Valentine's Day this year. This is like two palettes in one, and at the same time as I like this, you know, these two rows are a palette and these two rows are a palette, at the same time I hate this. It makes this palette so kind of like dizzy for me. You know what I mean? I look at this and I'm confused. I get the color story this time, but I'm not as inspired. I love the quality though, that's why it's still in my collection. I can create beautiful looks with this, but I think they could have changed this a bit better, or maybe not put this in this very clear, like organized way of displaying the shades. At 106, we have a Pat McGrath palette from this year's holiday collection, and this is the Sunset Romance. Quality is amazing. The look that I did, amazing. Color story, not so amazing. I mean, makes sense, but it's very boring. And that's the reason why this is ranked so low. At number 105, we have the second Raban quad that I have, and this is the Paradise Lost Then Found. This is a beautiful green quad, amazing. This dark green is more on the thinner side. That means when you use a more fluffy brush, you get a lighter wash of color. If you build it up or use a denser brush, you get an intense build up of color. And everything else in this palette just makes sense. But it is a quad. I'm not that much of a quad girl, but I like the formula so much that I keep it. Number 104 is the Pat McGrath Celestial Nirvana palette. This is the big Mothership Mega from last year. And this is the one where she, it's bigger than my face. This is the one where Pat McGrath got a bit back into her art, like, you know, the artsy vibe. And we got really, really beautiful, colorful things here. Big, beautiful 18 pan palette. I'm really sad that this year did not have a Mothership Mega because it's really cool to collect them. And, you know, it even makes sense when you use, or like when you look at this palette in like 6 pans, you know, you have these 6, and these 6. Absolutely stunning. Personally, I just do not gravitate towards this specific Mothership. And I can't put my finger on why. I look at it and I'm like, next. You know, I like it more than the other palettes, but it's no competition for the palettes that are just upcoming now. Who would have thought that I will rank a Charlotte Tilbury palette at 103? Certainly not me, because I thought when I tried this, I will rank this as my, maybe not least favorite, but not like in the middle range of my palettes. And this is the Beautyverse. This came out for the holidays this year. I really like this more than I thought I will. And because of this like surprising excitement that I felt, I had to contain myself because I immediately wanted to rank this much higher, like in the top 30. And then I just thought about this a bit more and I'm like, okay, be honest with yourself. Do you really want to use this so often? Do you really feel so connected with this palette that you can put it up in the top 30? Definitely not. I think with 103 in my ranking, this is in the middle field of my collection. It fits there, it belongs there, it will not get decluttered anytime soon. I think the mattes in here definitely are better than the quads. And these shimmers are bomb. Like the silver and the one next to it. What's it called? Cyber Silver and Beautyverse are the two colors. Chef's kiss. Rolling in at 102, Beauty Bay Fury 2.0. This is a monochromatic, warm red and yeah, kind of orange palette. I think this is a wonderful palette. Definitely not a palette I gravitate to every day, but it has a place in my collection and it kind of has my heart a bit because I'm just obsessed with red eyeshadow still. At 101 we have another Odin's Eye one. This is the Stone and Rock palette from this year's, whatever this collection was called. There was jewelry included that I was not interested in. Quality again, beautiful. Like, can we just talk about how beautiful Odin's Eye quality is? I personally really like it, but I don't like the color story. It is one of those earthy, mossy palettes, and even though this is a 16 pan eyeshadow palette, everything you do will end up like this. And personally, when I have a 16 pan eyeshadow palette, unless it's a 100% monochromatic, like the Beauty Bay ones, I want to have a little bit of variety, just a little bit, but I cannot see any other look than something green. I don't know. I mean, yes, you have this high spirit shade. I don't know if you can tell, but this shifts from green to blue, but still too green. We made it to the top 100. Who would have thought that I'm still alive at this point? And the top 100, like the first palette in my top 100 is a Mothership palette, and this is Mothership 10. I know some people, I saw their rankings and somebody was like, I will find anybody who says Mothership 10 is bad. You know what? It is a good palette, but it's not that good. Like, calm your fucking tits. It's not that good. I love this cool toned vibe that you get. I love especially this shade here. This is VR Saxacy. Beautiful. I love these two. I mean, now that I just talk about this, you might think, why the heck do you rank this only at 100? Because I don't feel the same excitement as I feel for the upcoming 99 palettes that I'm going to talk about. This is still a better palette than Mothership 11, but to be honest, probably any Makeup Revolution palette is better than Mothership 11. 99, we have a new Viseart palette. This is the Violet Vespertine, and this is the sister palette to the Violet one. I know everybody loves Violet. I don't own it. I only have the Vespertine. This is a beautiful grungy Violet palette, but the thing is just, I have a lot of palettes that can do the same. Viseart still, when it comes to quality, outrules them probably all, but I just do not feel as drawn to this specific palette as I might feel to others that can do the same. Still good. I love the quality. I think Viseart is an outstandingly good brand. At number 98, we have the Natasha Denona Mini Starlight palette. And fun story, I can't remember when I bought this. Because this all of a sudden was in a package from Beauty Bay. No, not Beauty Bay. Cult Beauty, the other shop in the UK. All of a sudden it was there and I was like, when the fuck did I order this? Apparently I had this in my basket, so I paid for it. So I use it, of course. The thing is, this looked so deliciously cool toned in the promo pics, but in real life this is much warmer. And this is also the thing that just throws me off the most. This one, this Galaxia, this is a 112K, beautiful shade. If you don't know if you need this, all of these are repeat shades, nothing is new in here, and you can probably do this color story very easy. At number 97, we have the other new Viseart palette. This is the Kashmiri Charmz. This is a newer version of the also popular Kashmiri palette that I ranked much higher because I like Kashmiri better than this. I do want to mention though that this palette has two kind of Viseart multichromes. So when I say multichromes, I don't mean Clayonad multichromes, I mean Viseart multichromes. They're a bit softer, they're a bit easier, they're not so punchy, so they are basically a nice entrance to the multichromes. I love the color story though, I think it's a beautiful palette, but I just like others a bit better than this. Number 96, we have the Tarte Man-Eater Nightfall palette. This came out this year. It was the big Tarte palette that they released. And I do think it's a good palette. I like the formula in this, but the other one that came out last year was much, much better. I still was able to create beautiful fall looks. I love this little bluish vibe that is going on here, but it's just a palette that is in this mediocre mindset. I never ever probably would sit in front of the shelf with my palette and be like, oh, let's today use the Tarte Man-Eater palette or the Nightfall palette. It's still good quality, but not that good. At number 95, we have the pastel palette. Like, who is she? The Blend Bunny Sickly Sweet is actually a pastel palette that I can deal with, mainly for the fact because not only has this pastel shades, this has enough depth going on that I can create beautiful looks. I think this is an outstandingly good pastel palette. The only reason why this is ranked in the 90s is actually that this is a pastel palette. I cannot convince myself to rank a pastel palette in like the top 20 or whatever because it just is not what I am. I know a lot of people love this. I think this is still a beautiful palette. The shimmers, I had some problems with, like I used Sprinkles, Cotton Candy and Cupcake the first time that I used it. Oh, and Crying Sparkles. But they are a bit on the thinner side and feel a little bit like the ones in the Forget Me Not palette. It's like as if they had some of this formula left and had to push it into a palette. But this, I think, is mainly for the mattes and they're outstanding as always. Can we all agree that my next palette is just a surprise of the year? Who would have thought that a Too Faced palette made it to the ranking? The Italian Spritz palette even looks a bit destroyed. I mean, here. I really gave this some love because it's a good palette. I know, who am I? This is a really good palette. I love the theme, I love the summer color story, I think it's absolutely stunning. But do you know what bothers me? First of all, oh, this smells like toilet cleaner. And second of all, who has such an evil mind that they print the eyeshadow names on top of the eyeshadow? Eyeshadow names go please underneath them, not on top. Too Faced. Listen. Next up we have another Adept palette to rank, and this is the Plain Jane. This was the second palette that I ever tried from Adept, and you can probably already tell that the formulation Plain Jane just even looks different to Minka. This is this like smooth kind of velvety feeling multichrome that I really enjoy, and I'm very, very happy that in all the palettes, all the other palettes from Adept Cosmetics, it's this formula and not the Minka flakes. Beautiful palette, a beautiful companion. I love everything in here. I love the shifts. Such a stunner, but it is a companion palette, you know? And it is a companion palette that I do love to use, but I have to remind myself to use it. It's nothing that, just like the Tarte Man-Eater, I will sit in front of my shelf and be like, let's use Plain Jane today. At number 92, we have another What's Up Beauty palette, and this is the Desert Monsoon. I like this much more than the Geodes palette, probably because this goes way deeper. The shimmers are more impactful. Love it and enjoy it. Not better as the other 91 palettes that I have to talk about, but much better as the rest that we have just seen. And at number 91, another monochromatic beautiful palette from Beauty Bay. This is the Midnight palette. And if you love blues and purples, Midnight palette is the palette that will serve you blues and purples. Do not expect anything more, but also not anything less. Number 90 is another Mothership palette, and this is Mothership 1 Subliminal. Beautiful color story, cool toned heaven, but do you know what's the problem with this? The mattes are awful. They don't blend, they're patchy as fuck, they are horrible. And I asked on Instagram and people commented like, oh no, I don't have a problem with them. I was like, what are you doing? Teach me, please. Because I, for the sake of my life, cannot make these work in 2 swipes. I needed like a full-on blending session of 30 minutes to make them kind of work. It took me like a lot of pain in my arm, you know, this is painful at some point. The only reason that saves this palette from not being ranked very, very low towards the end is this. This is it. This is why we love Pat McGrath. The special shades, the baked shades, the delicious soft velvet shades. And in Subliminal, they are delicious. They are lickable. We're at number 89 and this starts. We're at number 89 and this is the Blend Bunny, the Dollhouse palette. I don't know really what it is, but this cool tone beauty really got me. And I love that you get 2 rows of shimmers in here. You have your light, more like topper shades, but you have really deep, nice, impactful metallics. I am absolutely stunned by this palette, and the only reason why this is ranked, I'm absolutely stunned by this palette, and the only reason why this isn't ranked higher, I just have 88 that I like more. You know, sometimes that's the only reason. Just that. Nothing specific. I just like others more than this. Number 88 is the Odin's Eye Solomon 2, and when I went through my ranking list, you know, I do rank every palette or like rate palettes in terms of quality, color story, and personal excitement. I, for whatever reason, discovered that I ranked this super high. Like, I gave this palette a like 9.7 out of 10, and I'm not sure why. I love this. I love the blue vibe. I love the pops of orange that are just in here. But it is not a palette that I think of constantly. For example, when we are in my, let's say the top 5 palettes, these are 5 palettes. If you would burn down my house, these are the 5 that I would buy at first. This does not count to this. It is still a beautiful palette. I love this formulation in here. I love the mix of mattes and shimmers. Everything just makes sense in this palette. I just like others more. What a surprise release for this year. Next up we have Viseart, the Coyish palette. This is in the étendue size, if this is important to you. They have different like pen sizes, and étendue has 1.5 grams of product. Yeah, 1.5. This is the Viseart take on a multi-chrome palette, and I mentioned this before with the Cashmere Charmz palette. Is this really right? Cashmere Charmz? I don't know. This is not an indie brand duochrome. This is a very soft duochrome. They have slight duochromy vibes going on. They are very, very hard to tell, but I still like it. I still think this is a beautiful companion palette, and Viseart just, I cannot stress it enough what great quality Viseart has. Number 86 is the Pat McGrath Mothership Mega Celestial Odyssey. This is the one from 2021. Yes, 2021. I like this a lot. I think this is a beautiful color story. I think the formats that they chose to put in this palette really fit the complete vibe, but it's just not my favorite. It is a nice palette. It's mediocre nice, you know, for my excitement level, it's more in the mid-range. I don't want to miss it in my collection, but I'm also not gravitating towards it. At number 85, another monochromatic beauty pay palette, and this is the Berries palette, and you probably have guessed it. Yes, this is very berry tone. What makes this palette a bit special in my opinion is that you even have like neonish bright pops in there. So this gives the duochrome vibe a more adventurous take on it. But at the end, it's a beautiful berry color story, and I'm very gravitating towards lilacs. That's why this is ranked a bit higher than, for example, Midnight. Even though I'm obsessed with blues, I just think that purples go better with my eye color. which makes sense because I have green eyes. Number 84 is another Beauty Bay palette, and this is actually the first Beauty Bay palette that I tried. Dark Fantasy. This came out, I think this is a fall release of 2022. Yeah, fall 2022. And oh boy. Again, you have two palettes in here. You have the two rows up there, and I touch the shadow, and you have these two rows that make a color story. But even this together, when you mix them all, is absolutely beautiful. Such a stunning palette. This really got my heart the moment that I saw it, and I was like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna try Beauty Bay shadows. And it actually made me fall in love with the formulation, and I have to sadly admit that I have not used this in a hot minute, and I really, really need to, because let's be honest, this looks like a typical indie brand color story, doesn't it? You know, the blues, the pops of green. But it's a solid palette for my like mid-range ranking. At number 83, another quad, and this is the Prada quad. This is the Prada Dimensions eyeshadow palette, and I have the number 3. This, you know, this still looks like these powder sample cards. Do you know them? You have to like pull up the like plastic on top, and then you have the thinnest layer of powder pressed on a paper or like a cardboard, and this looks like unreal. This looks like the same, and I think this is a beautiful quad. This palette really is triggering something in me because of the pan design, but the quality is stunning. I'm just not a quad girl. That's my only problem, and that's also the only reason why I haven't bought other Prada quads, because I think quality-wise, they surprised me even more than Raban makeup. At number 82, we have another Unearthly Cosmetics palette. This is the Don't Be Jelly one, and this is a Jellylicious palette. I love these shifts in this palette. I love how it comes together, and this is what I meant when I said about the Dark Fantasy, your typical indie color story, because it's literally the same. Blues, purples, dark greens. Typical indie color story, but very pretty, very beautiful. I like the formulation, as I said, of Unearthly Cosmetics a fucking lot. And I don't even know if this palette is still available, because I feel like that this format of palettes is discontinued. Correct me if I'm wrong. If not, it's worth checking out. So number 81 and 80, I could probably change on a mood. They are very close by each other, and for today's mood, I decided that at number 81, I put the Odin's Eye Flora Story palette. This is the collab palette with Odin's Eye and Makeup Just for Fun. Nice muted green color story with a bit of purple that actually makes sense. You know, complementary shades, they always make sense, and they look really nice. Personally, I don't think that the quality in here is the same as Odin's Eye does in the 16 pan palettes. The whole influencer collab that they did in spring this year was kind of a bit throwing off. And at number 80, I do have the other green palette from Odin's Eye, and this is the Odin's Eye and Angelica Nyquist Hala palette. And it always depends on the mood whether I like this or the Flora Story more. They are kind of in the same region. As of today, as I said, this I like better than Flora Story, mainly for the quality, because I think this here has better quality. We're in the top 80, and at number 79, unfortunately, the Nomad Cosmetics Verona Amore e Morte palette. Why unfortunately? I wanted to love this palette. I am a big fan for Romeo and Juliet. I love the movie. I love the original William Shakespeare book. It's all that I can dream of and tell you. And look at this side. Now look at this side. Now, oh, look at them both. Oh, here. This is beautiful. My problem is just that Nomad Cosmetics is so inconsistent with their formulation. The shimmers are a pain in the ass. All of these in here are the same bad quality as in the Santa's Village from Christmas last year. They are hard pressed, they're barely showing up on you. It really hurts me. but I can't get rid of it. Number 78 is Cosmic Brushes, the Muse palette. I don't know when this actually came out. I have no clue. I just tried them this year. Beautiful color story, beautiful overall and all in all, but I'm just not into that muted colors. You know what I mean? This is a muted color story. I wish it had a bit more of a punch going on. I love the formulation, but Muse, compared to the other Cosmic Brushes palettes that I own, is just not that good. At number 77, we have the Last Mothership Mega, and this is the Celestial Divinity from 2020. This is a good color story. It's dark, it's like savory, it's everything. You have you have 3 mattes. Actually, I don't care for the mattes in here. They're like pretty basic. I don't know. It's all about the shimmers in here. This beautiful red, oh, it's fire. This green, like blooming. This whitish gold champagne color, everything you ever wanted in a color. The best mega mothership that Pat McGrath ever came out with. This year, unfortunately, there was no mothership mega. Instead, we got 5 different of the quints. And at number 76, we have the Bronze Ecstasy quint from this year. You know, this is the true definition of a mediocre quint. And I don't mean this even in a bad way. It's a neutral, mediocre brown quint. You can do nothing wrong with it. You will not look horrible when you use it. You will probably look really nice. You cannot expect a big variety in here. It's solid, it's mediocre. I don't have anything bad to say about it, but also not anything like overly good. At number 75, we have my ColourPop and Back to Hogwarts palette. If you wanna unfollow me now, feel free to do so, because I don't care for your fucking opinion on J.K. Rowling. Harry Potter is my childhood. Harry Potter is what I grew up with as a teen. The movies, they were everywhere when I was younger, and I just remember the moment sitting in the cinema, watching the last movie. And then you have, when they're all done, this 19-year later ending scene, and they're all grown up. And I'm tearing up already, because that was the moment I realized I'm not a kid anymore, because I must have been 19 or 20 when this came out, and I will forever have an emotional bonding to this. But my emotions shall not affect the ranking of this palette. First of all, I think this is a beautiful color story. This really reflects the houses. I think they made such a good job in here. I love the names, I love everything. But the thing is, just because of the fact that this does reflect the houses so good, it's not a very cohesive color story. I mean, yes, you have this part that is like very, very warmish and neutral. And then you might have this part that is more the dark side. Yes, makes sense, but overall, you either end up with a nice warm look or with a nice dark look. Is there something bad about this? No, but it's also nothing where I'm like, oh, this is the best palette ever. There is a lot of emotional bonding to this. The fact that this just looks like a book and feels like this is amazing. And what does it tell you about my excitement that I even keep the carton that it was in, because I can slide it just right back in and it looks like new. Higher than I expected, with number 74, is the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Ice Palette. This has really grown on me, and I predict an Ethereal Ice 2 in 2024. It will be a cool toned version of this. This is very neutral, to be honest. This is not very warm leaning. This is very balanced neutral. I really enjoy this. My concern is just the shimmers, because they're very thin, and this is not my typical style of vibe. But for a neutral palette, top. Really good. At number 73, we have the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde, one of the few palettes where I have an eyeshadow pen, because I am fucking obsessed with the shade Supermoon, and I nearly hit pan in Ultraviolet. Beautiful palette, I really enjoy this, but out of the Huda palettes, this is my least favorite, but it's still good enough to be in my collection. Even with a broken packaging, because, this mechanism broke, the plastic like broke off. You know, I'm a big fan of separating feelings from makeup, from separating behaviors from makeup. And that's why I did not exclude in this ranking the Glamlight palettes that I so far owned. And I rank them not by my experience with the brand, I rank them by color story, excitement, and by quality. And with personal excitement, I mean, what do I feel when I look at this? So at number 72, the Glamlight Chucky palette. I think this is such a clever take on a dark vamp palette with reds. Everybody else has left a chat. I know that not a lot of people like this palette. I personally think this is an artwork of a dark vamp Valentine's palette. I enjoy every single shade in here. And at number 71, and that means the last palette for this first part, we have the Nomad Cosmetics Royal Europe palette. What a stunner. And do you know what? The quality here of the shimmers is completely different. They're multi-chromes, yes, but they're velvety soft. My biggest thing about this palette is actually the color story, because it's just too much. There's balance missing. Everything is mid-toned. Everything is the same tone. I cannot go really dark. I cannot go really light. I cannot balance this. Everything is in the same level of mid. You know what I mean? It is color coordinated, yes, but you can basically use this and then this, and the mattes are kind of a bonus, like the neutral mattes are a bonus. Beautiful palette. I wish there were some more lighter shades in here. Like, one row light, one row mid, or like even dark, light, dark, and then the multi-chromes would have been better. I've been filming now for 1 hour for these few palettes, and I have 70 to go. Like, there. Please subscribe to my channel so that this all makes sense, because tomorrow, you know, I won't let you wait so long. Tomorrow you will get part 2, and then you will find out what my most favorite palette of the year is. Thank you for watching. Stay please here so I can see you tomorrow.